Hey guys, what's up? So, I just got sent a controller from HexGaming called the PS5 Rival Controller. It's being dubbed as the Tactical Gaming Controller, equipped with interchangeable thumbsticks, remappable back buttons, and fast shot hair triggers. Is it worth the hefty price tag, or are you better off just getting an official PS5 controller instead? Let's find out. First up, let's talk about build quality. Right off the bat, the Rival feels very comfortable. Holding it in your hands, you can tell this thing is built like a tank. It does not feel cheap at all. And might I also add, feels quite familiar. In fact, it feels just like the official PS5 controller, which shouldn't be a surprise because the Rival uses the same exact shell as Sony's DualSense. I actually kind of prefer that since it blends in with the rest of your controllers. You know how you can tell when a controller wasn't made by a first party because most third-party controllers have those weird, goofy designs? It just sticks out like a sore thumb. Not the case here. The Rival blends in perfectly with the official DualSense. One thing I've noticed not too many people mention about the Rival controller is the D-pad. Unlike the DualSense, the Rival seems to use the same D-pad as the DualShock 4. Now, in my opinion, I always preferred the D-pad on the DualShock 4 over the DualSense. It was just smoother in my opinion, unlike the DualSense which had a glossy finish to it. There's nothing wrong with it, but if your thumb got really sweaty, it would often stick to the D-pad a little more. I mean, you can pretty much feel it the instant you start rotating your thumb. Because of the smoother finish on the Rival, it doesn't react as much to your sweat. I guess it doesn't really matter if you're using the D-pad to make simple menu selections, but for fighting games, making those quick thumb rotations can be rather difficult. And for that, I'd have to go with the D-pad on the Rival. In terms of weight, the Rival comes in at 10.6 ounces, while Sony's official controller comes in a tad lighter at 10 ounces. And just for shits and giggles, the DualShock 4 comes in at 7.7 ounces, while the DualShock 3 weighs in at 6.8 ounces. Interesting. One cosmetic change on the Rival is that you'll notice the PlayStation Home button is replaced with the HexGaming logo. No big deal. And this is a minor nitpick, but I wish the Rival had the buttons displayed for you. Like it doesn't show you which button is which. Listen, I'm getting old, and sometimes I have to look down at the controller to figure out where the square and X buttons are. Trust me, I'm not the only one. Alright, so what are the features that make this thing cost so freaking much? If I'm being honest, there's basically 3 key features that separates the Rival from Sony's official controller. And one of them actually negates a feature of the DualSense. I'll get more into that later. First off, you've got the 2 remappable buttons on the back. Hold down the setting button in the middle until the light turns red, and then press down on either the left or the right paddle and hold down the buttons you want to configure it to. Pretty straightforward. Just a side note, the light isn't red because the console isn't on, so this is just for demonstration purposes. It works, but the thing is, the back buttons are so sensitive. The slightest touch sets them off. I would gently graze the side of it and it would activate. I'd have to rest both my middle fingers in the center of the controller to keep from touching the back buttons. In the end, I just ended up not using them altogether. So that's one feature I didn't really care for. The next is interchangeable thumbsticks. You get your choices of 4 extra thumbsticks. Well, actually 6 if you count the ones that are already on the controller. There's concave and dome thumbsticks, each with varying heights. Honestly, yet again, I didn't care much for this feature either. I mean, my hands are not that big, so I'm fine with whatever was already on the controller to begin with. Still, I can see how this would benefit someone with bigger hands. I mean, are they used for people with bigger hands? Like, I don't know enough about thumbsticks to give an opinion. I just use whatever comes with a first-party controller. The last feature, which I think is the most important and probably one that would be the deciding factor on whether to buy this controller or not, the fast shot hair triggers. Both the R and L buttons now have less travel to them. So what does that mean? Well, you might not notice it so much with the R1 and L1, but for the R2 and L2 triggers, they no longer function as triggers, you could say. They're more like actual buttons now. There's no in between, like you can't lightly press down on it and apply a certain amount of pressure. It just clicks like regular face buttons. It works brilliantly with fighting games and first-person shooters, but unfortunately, driving games lose that nuance of being able to apply pressure to the brake and gas pedal. Another detriment is the fact that you lose the adaptive trigger feedback. Because you're no longer able to slowly pull down on the triggers, you lose the feeling of tension that you normally would get otherwise. This is a huge setback since the adaptive triggers is often mentioned as a key next-gen feature of the PlayStation 5. Okay, so let's put this controller to the test. First off, we gotta sync the controller to the PS5. I had to look this one up. Press down on the share and home button at the same time. You should be able to figure out from there. First game is Crash Bandicoot 4. Whether you're using the left thumbstick or the D-pad, the Rival controller plays without a hitch. Everything works just as good as they would on an official PS5 DualSense. Although I would like to mention, since the D-pad on the Rival isn't as sticky, you'll notice using that control setup will feel a little smoother. Still, I don't think it's too drastic of a difference where I'd recommend the Rival over Sony's official controller, especially for this game. Okay, next up, Street Fighter V. I know this game like the back of my hand, so I'll tell you how the Rival really stacks up here. If I'm being honest, because I always like to be honest, had the Rival been released back in 2016 when Street Fighter V was available, I would have bought it just for this game. The amount of money I've spent on buying and upgrading a fight stick would probably be the same as a Rival controller. Also add in the fact that I wouldn't have to learn how to use a fight stick. And since the Rival has a headphone jack, I also could have talked to my friends while playing the game as well. Just so you know, my fight stick doesn't have a headphone jack. Moves are super easy to pull off thanks to a smoother D-pad and the hair trigger functionality. Next up, we've got Call of Duty Cold War. A day and night difference when using the hair triggers, let me tell you. Pulling off shots feel almost instantaneous. Although I will admit, because you no longer feel the tension of the adaptive triggers, you do lose that sense of immersion. And finally, we've got Dirt 5. Now here's a game where I feel the hair triggers actually work against itself. The game is still playable, but I'd be lying if I said the adaptive triggers didn't add anything to the overall experience. The sensation you get from driving over different road surfaces isn't as pronounced as it was before. Not only that, but the smaller nuances of the game are gone as well. You can't feather the gas or lightly tap on the brakes. It's very one-dimensional, and for a next-gen game, that's not something you want to hear. Alright, so here's the answer everyone probably wants to know. Is it worth the money? The HexGaming Rival is priced at $290. That comes with basically what you see here. There's an option to customize one yourself, which starts at $250. The thing is, the $250 one only comes equipped with interchangeable thumbsticks and the re-mappable back buttons. If you want to add the hair trigger functionality, that's an extra $30. So you're looking at either spending $280 or $290. Listen, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything. If this gets me blacklisted from reviewing other products in the future, then I don't care because I'm here for you guys. Do I think this controller is worth the price it's going for? No, absolutely not. And it's a shame because I really like this controller. There's nothing wrong with it. It works great, it looks great, and it's built like a rock. But to the average consumer, it's not worth that much money. Maybe if I was playing Street Fighter or Call of Duty competitively, then yes, perhaps there's a possibility. But to the average gamer, absolutely not. If you're playing Street Fighter, you probably would have picked up a fight stick by now. And if you're playing Call of Duty, then you're probably on a mouse and keyboard. The HexGaming Rival feels more like a second option. And as a second option, I feel it should be more affordable. Also, add in the fact that if you're not using this to play competitively, then you lose the adaptive trigger functionality. Nobody's gonna pay $290 to lose a key next-gen feature when they could just spend $70 on the DualSense. Heck, even the Xbox Elite controller isn't $290. The price point is way out of range for the average consumer. Even for competitive play, it's still a little too much. Realistically, I feel like this controller should be priced around the $140 and $160 price range for what you're getting. Don't forget, you're actually losing a key next-gen feature due to the hair triggers. As it stands, it's a hard one for me to recommend, because like I said, there's nothing I hate about it other than the price. I mean, if you got money to throw around, I'd say go for it, but for everyone else, save it and go buy yourself more games. Now, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more related content, then click the links on the screen or the ones that are pinned down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.